Welcome to GabTalks, where we provide tools, tips, and techniques to help your life and business be easier, better, and faster. Howdy, howdy, howdy. How are you? I am Gabriella, and this is GabTalks Success Tips from Experts. Welcome to our next episode. I'm so excited to bring to you our expert today, Marcus Melnick.
Greetings, Gab. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to speak with you. My name is Marcus Melnick. I started as a firearms instructor, but it's since expanded to be an anti-violence specialist. Have firearms experience a little bit more than 42 years, and 32 of those years were in public safety roles. I'm also a second generation inventor and a court recognized expert witness.
Oh my gosh, incredible. And that is exactly why I was excited to be able to bring you to our audience and having somebody like you who can take us through the process of knowing how to be safer in our homes. I think our audience is really going to benefit from this conversation today. So let's dive on in. Is there anything else with your expertise that you can share with us today?
I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have also taught as an adjunct professor on the college level.
So let's get into your background that got you to where you are today. I mean, you have what, 9, 30, 75 degrees?
Something like that, but 3.5, I'll put it that way. So my origin story started 170 years ago. And I know you're looking at me saying, you're not that old, Marcus, which I'm not. My family, part of my family, I should say, emigrated to the United States prior to the American Civil War.
Okay.
And firearms have been passed down from generation to, or at least the knowledge, not the actual firearms, but the knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation. If you were to come in my family room, you would see some photos that I have reproduced that are my family on a horse with a rifle, covered wagon. So early American settler was in my family. So that's how it started. When I was a child, ultimately this got passed down to my father. He would take me to the shooting range as a 7-year-old child. It was a different world back then. I get it. 7 might be a little too young for people today, but I was such a child that he had to bring a little step stool so I could step on it and see over the bench. This was one of 2 activities that only my father and I did together. So as an adult, I really enjoyed safely going to the firearms range and starting to teach other people. Ultimately, this blossomed into a business, which is called Firearm Mentor. So that's my origin story. That's how I got to be where I am today.
That is such an incredible story. The first time that I was at the range, I was in my late 20s and there were teenagers there, but I don't think that you're allowed to go to the range under a certain age at this point. And if you're like a teenager, you have to have an adult there with you. It is a totally different time now than it was when we were kids.
Absolutely. In Illinois, there's no age requirement. It's up to the parent. However, there's a level of common sense that says a 4-year-old shouldn't be holding a firearm. Maybe even a 7-year-old. I mean, like I said, it's a different world today.
And it's interesting because you teach people how to be safe. You mentor people how to be safe. And so you know that 99% of 7-year-olds out there should not be being taught. They're just not ready.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Well, there has to be a sense of maturity. It doesn't mean that a child has to have the maturity of a 50-year-old, but they have to have a good understanding that dead is dead. There's no such thing as I'm sorry after you've accidentally shot someone. It's certainly fun. It's certainly a great activity. There are some adults that shouldn't have firearms. They're not for everyone. I get it. I totally understand. There's people that are against them, and that's okay. But I also recognize that they exist in our society, whether people want them or not, want to believe it or not. And my little contribution to the public is ensuring that people know how to safely own, operate, and store, meaning lock up their firearms safely. Even for people who say, well, I live alone and I don't have children and no one visits me, it's still very important for them to lock up their firearms.
So I'm going to ask you about a book that you wrote because it's part of your background, and again, this is a very sensitive topic and it can be very polarizing. But when we have people like Marcus Melnick in our lives that understand both sides of the conversation and want to make sure that the greatest number of people are keeping safe and able to use things such as firearms in a very safe way, you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that.
The book's title is The Opposite of Safe. And what inspired me to write this book was the July 4th, Highland Park, Illinois parade shooting. My family was very much involved in that incident. My niece was actually there as a participant in the parade. My brother-in-law was one of the police investigators, and my sister-in-law was one of the crisis counselors. The news media had called me, and then they came to my house and actually interviewed me on firearm laws. So I was thinking about this, giving it a lot of thought. And of course, it's traumatic to me as well. It's a horrible thing. It's not the appropriate way that firearms are supposed to be used. So in my travels and my education, a lot of people don't really understand what happens to them mentally and physically during a stressful incident. And in this case, it's mass violence that we're talking about, but it applies in a broad spectrum. They may have experienced possibly things happening in slow motion, tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, and all these things that the hormonal cocktail that includes epinephrine and adrenaline runs through our bloodstream, what it does to our bodies. I thought that if somebody actually can expect that, they can understand, okay, my vision is going to narrow. I'm only going to be able to focus on the threat or the thing that's going to put me in an unsafe position. I get it. I can fight against those things, be aware of my surroundings, and move to a safe area. It's not about bang, bang, shoot them up. It's about understanding how you're going to react and moving to safety.
I don't know that there's a lot of materials out there on that, and I think that's incredible.
Thank you. There's a lot of publications out there. However, they are clinical. They are for people in medical school. I did a huge literature review, but it was very technical. There are a few things geared towards police officer stress and stress of people in the military, but there's nothing out there. I didn't find anything for the general public. Nothing. I saw the gap and I bridged that gap.
That's awesome. So I'm going to change the direction of the conversation a little bit, but it actually is super relevant to everything we just talked about. You were telling me about your inspiration and the people that influenced you. And we already talked about your dad taking you to the range, but you had a few people that influenced your path. Let's discuss that now.
Very good. Well, when I was 15 years old, I was recruited into the Skokie, Illinois Police Department's Explorer program. And that is basically a program for teenagers 14 to 21 who want to go into a specific career. There's a plethora of different interests, including engineering, firefighting, medical. This happened to be police. I was recruited into this organization, and the police officer who led it, his name is Walter Trenadu. He took me under his wing, and he started to develop me professionally, but there were also personal lessons as well. I'm still friends with him today. A second mentor, and I truly believe in mentorship, was one of my college professors. His name was Michael Langer. He is no longer with us, but he was a huge, huge influence on my education, what to pursue, career paths. And the third mentor who I'd like to mention, his name is John Fay, and he's now retired, but he was the deputy chief of the Glencoe Police and Fire Department. And he and I worked very closely together for about 10 years. I still see him. I was at his house a couple weeks ago. We still are in contact. Fabulous guy. He really taught me how to successfully interact with people and motivate them.
Hello, awesome listener. Thank you so much for joining us today at GabTalks Success Tips from Experts. We're going to take a short break and say thank you to our sponsors. It is through the generous support of these sponsors that we are able to bring to you these amazing experts that are sharing their best tips for your success. So please listen to what our sponsors have to say, and hopefully they're going to inspire you that you're going to click their links and go support them.
Introducing Boost by GoV, a high-end, first-in-class fuel catalyst tablet that is taking the world by storm. How would you like to save money on gas and go further on every single tank? The new MPG is here. Get more miles per gallon, boost power and performance, and reduce emissions and exhaust. What would you say if you could pay less and make fewer trips to the gas pump? It's time to wake up and get on the move. What are you waiting for? Get more out of life and join the GoV experience today. Scan the QR code or check the show notes for more information.
Global Prosperity Academy, GPA, is a community of like-minded individuals that are heart-centered and mission-driven, focusing on high-level communication training, leadership development, and strategic community building. Take a look at the video in the link below and see how GPA is right for you.
Part of the point of these conversations is success tips from people who are experts, and clearly you are an expert. I'd like to start by asking you, if you went back to that 7-year-old self or that 15-year-old self of yours, what one piece of advice would you give to help you along your path?
The advice I have for my younger self, the 7-year-old boy who needed to jump up on the step stool to see over the bench, is 3 words: progress over perfection. In my heart, I'm a perfectionist. Nothing ever comes out perfect, ever. I make mistakes all the time. I try to learn from them. I try not to make the same mistakes over and over. I like to make new mistakes, but it's more important to use a football term, to move the chains down the field towards the goal than it is to throw an 80-yard Hail Mary pass.
Absolutely.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Absolutely. All right. So, Marcus, I know that you literally teach people tips and advice all day long. It is pretty much what your career is, and you've given us tons. But I'm going to ask you if you have any specific tips or advice to share with our audience today, whether it's related to firearm safety or building a business or both.
This is related to both, and it's related to life in general. Be a mentor to someone. Be a mentee to someone, even simultaneously.
Yes.
There are people out there who are more developed than I am, and I befriend them, I learn from them. And then there are people, and I've mentored dozens of people throughout my career who have gone on and been very, very successful. And while that's not a public thing, it's a feather in your cap. It makes you feel good and makes you understand how to better mentor the next person who you're going to mentor. So that is just, there's people out there that are smarter than me. I don't want to say smarter than you, but there are people out there that are smarter than me. There are people out there that I'm smarter than, and it's about helping others and being helped by others.
When you said that 2 of the influences that you mentioned that are still alive today, that mentored you, you still have relationships with.
Absolutely, yes.
And those relationships has helped you throughout your career, even after the formalized part of the mentorship was no longer formal and it was more of a friendship. I'm certain, because I too am the same way. I have mentors that help my career and people that I mentor. I actually have a relationship with somebody who mentors me, and I mentor them back, and we help each other move our businesses forward. So that is amazing advice, and some of my favorite advice that anybody has given. Any other advice to share with us today?
Share your knowledge. And part of that is mentoring, but you don't have to be a mentor to share your knowledge. You can post on social media, you can have a blog, and it could be knowledge of, hey, look, I got a new dog. This is how I take care of my dog. It doesn't have to be industry specific. It can be just go out there and give before you take.
Yes.
Help people in your area of expertise. Everyone has a different area of expertise. When I have a medical question, I don't go on WebMD. I contact my physician. If I have a legal question, I contact an attorney. I don't try. They're the professionals. They're the experts. So rely on experts as well.
Awesome. All right, before we conclude this conversation, any last advice to share?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. Like I said, life is about mistakes and learning from them. Don't be afraid. You make a mistake, guess what? You pull your boots on by the bootstraps, you learn from it, move on, and don't make the same mistake again. I know I'm repeating myself.
It's okay. It's great advice. And clearly it was very powerful to resonate with you and share with our audience, because you know what? Sometimes people need to hear the same thing multiple times in different ways.
On each episode of GabTalks Success Tips from Experts, we like to highlight a hero sponsor who is a business that chooses to highlight a do-good organization in their own community that is bettering the world. Today's hero sponsor is...
Hello, world. This is Z, or you can call me Mr. Z. I am a web developer, and I am also a consultant from Z World Webs. Today, I want to highlight the Spiro Foundation, because this nonprofit organization is truly dedicated to arresting the spread of human trafficking. This includes prevention, education, recovery, and of course, technology. If you would like to learn more about the Spiro Foundation, please visit their website at www.spiro-foundation.org. And again, their website is www.spero-foundation.org, to which Spiro is Latin for I hope. Or you may scan their QR code. The link can be found in the show notes. So with that being said, my name is Z from Z World Webs, and let's develop a website Z World is waiting for. Thank you.
Marcus, I loved this conversation, and I know that even though you're based in Illinois, you actually have a national and global reach in some of the things you do. And I think that people would benefit from being able to reach out to you and talk to you, and 100% need to get your book. Where can we find more information about you?
My digital business card is firearmmentorcard.com.
We'll make sure the link for that is in the show notes and in the description for you guys. And you were saying
that'll have all the different ways to get a hold of me: email, text, phone, LinkedIn, Facebook,
websites. I know you have multiple websites.
Yes, the websites will be listed there as well.
So it's firearmmentorcard.com. So you guys, again, we'll get that down below in the show notes, and we'll also get the YouTube channel in the show notes, and we will get a link to Marcus's book into the notes below as well. And did you have an offer for our audience today?
Yes, reach out to me. I will be happy to share with you the top 10 tips to be safe, as well as I want to be your phone a friend. So when you have a question on firearms, throw me an email, throw me a text, tell me how you heard about me so that it's not out of context. And I'm happy to be a resource to you.
That is one of the best offers, because everybody needs resources. So we will get the link again down below for you to be able to reach out. And I know that we were discussing where you'll be able to get some tips directly from Marcus, and make sure you click those links, reach out. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and mark the reminder bell so that you know when our next episode is airing.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope you got value today. We want to give a huge shout out of gratitude to our contributors. Please make sure you click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to click the bell up above to get reminders when we add new content.